All right. It's been quite a week. At the beginning of the week, I had this bizarre dream, and if any of you ever had a kind of multi-part dream, it just goes all over the place. Uh, and the title of today's talk is I worked with the dream all week. Uh, Ira Progroff trained me in journal writing, and I worked for him for 7 years. And he was actually trained with Carl Jung. And Carl Jung said, impressed on Ira, and Ira impressed on me that dreams don't mean, they lead. It's a world of difference because we always try to figure out the meaning of stuff. The meaning, and if you try to figure out the meaning of dreams, it's beside the point for Jung. Jung felt that dreams were leads, and you had to follow the leads, and then you'd find out, that where they want you to go. So it was a really bizarre dream. It started out with I could see Moses and Hamlet sitting in a tree conversing, and but I couldn't hear what they were saying. And then then I was lost in a mall, and I was in the spiral staircase, and Wolf Blitzer came down the staircase, and I said, "Hi, Wolf." I said, "How do you get out of here?" He said, "I don't know. Breaking news, breaking news." And then he went on, and so I finally found this door, and I went out this door, and then I was on beach, but I was above the beach. Jill and Judy will know the place. I was actually on Emerald Island in North Carolina, and I was in this house, and they had a high cupola there where you could look out on the ocean, and that's actually where I was. I went through the door and I was up there. You know how dreams are. And then there was a pod of dolphins that were just kind of, doing what dolphins do, frolicking, but there's a bunch of them, what they call a pod of dolphins. And then I woke up. So what I've learned to do with the dreams is the parts of, this is a multi-part dream, being lost in a dream. We all know that. But I resonated with the beginning and the ending. So I spent the week when I would go down meditation with those two parts that resonated the most with me. The Moses and Hamlet sitting in a tree talking, and then this pod of dolphins. And gradually staying with them, sort of like icons, you don't try to figure them out, you just sort of be in the presence of them, and gradually you go through them and they lead you to something. And so the first poem is, led me to like four poems this week, but the first poem is called Moses and Hamlet, Wolf Blitzer, and Dolphins. So here's that poem, and then we'll see where it leads us today. Moses and Hamlet sitting in a tree, Talking. First comes words, then comes bondage, then comes Moses in the Red Sea up to his nose before it parted. Yes, but, say you and me, just as Hamlet sighed, and never ever started to really be. Everybody has the voice of Moses and Hamlet deep inside. How we dance with these two archetypal energies will determine whether we live a life of liberation or vacillation. Moses and Hamlet sitting in a tree, Talking. First comes words, then comes bondage, then comes Moses in the Red Sea up to his nose before it parted. Yes, but, say you and me, just as Hamlet sighed and never ever started to really be. Everybody has the voice of Moses and Hamlet deep inside. Everybody has the voice of Moses and Hamlet deep inside. How we dance with these two archetypal energies will determine whether we live a life of liberation or vacillation. Yeah, that's how it came out on the page. Uh, it started out with that, famous ditty, you know, me and Mary sitting in the tree, Kissing, but it became Moses and Hamlet sitting in the tree, Talking. And I didn't know what they were saying. And to spend a little time with it, just, basically present to that image. And then gradually first of all, Moses dawned on me. We all, maybe you saw the Ten Commandments movie where Charlton Heston is there. He's got all the Israelites who have been in bondage. They're ready to go leave Egypt, and they're going to cross the Red Sea. And Moses, Charlton Heston lifts up his thing, and the Red Sea parts. Then they go through it, if you remember the film. And then when the Yul Brynner and the Egyptians are chasing after them, then as soon as Moses and they get clear of it, the whole sea comes, and all that kind of stuff. Cecil B. DeMille's view, but actually in the Bible, and I started thinking about this: why he was in the dream. Moses, he led his people out of slavery into freedom, but that freedom, he had to go through the Red Sea. And they actually, in the Jewish account of that, in the Hebrew account of it, which is all, the Hebrew account translated into Greek and Latin, and then English, they left a lot out. We lost a lot. But in the Hebrew account, Moses actually has to walk into the Red Sea until he keeps walking, the water keeps coming up, and it actually comes up to his nose. So it's over his mouth before it actually parts. Now that's an image to savor. If you're talking about faith, and somebody this week, Anthony, said they wanted to have faith, like a lot of her Southern Baptist friends who just believe in, and well, it's not the faith that Moses had. You got to walk, even when it's not parting, up to the nose. That tells you something about faith and about what it takes to leave slavery. And then you still have to go for 40 years in the desert wandering around. There's not that really much desert between Egypt and where they ended up. So they obviously were going in circles. But again, 40 in the Bible, it means as long as it takes, because basically people live to be 40. So it might take your whole lifetime to get free. So that's sort of on the point. Because especially in Lent, I really recommend that you target some habit energy that you have that perhaps most undoubtedly formed when you're a child in the household, and it's still going on, even though it's not, and it's you're sort of addicted to it. And I really suggest, rather than trying to give up candy or whatever for Lent like we did as kids, because then as soon as Lent was over, we gorged on the Easter candy. So I mean, what was really the point there, But to really target some kind of habit energy that is getting in the way of you and loving the world more. And I think that's what Moses stood to me. And even if it doesn't seem to be working, like I gave up worrying for Lent one time, and I know you can give up worrying because I did it thousands of times, as they say. And all of a sudden I catch myself worrying. And I used to worry when I was a teacher about with a stack of papers to grade. And I'd worry for 3 days, and then I'd finally worry so much I'd start doing it. And I wondered, well, what would happen if I didn't worry? Would I still do the papers? And it was one of the best Lents I ever had, because worry can get in the way of loving. You see, you're obsessed with worrying about X, Y, or Z that you just can't love anything. So whatever gets in the way of loving is the thing to target. I gave up bitching for Lent one year. I gave it up 1,000 times, let me tell you. And it was a great Lent too. For one thing, although you don't tell anybody what you're doing for Lent, that's sort of your secret. But our faculty meetings on Fridays were 5 or 10 minutes shorter, all Lent. I realized how much I must have bitched all the time, because you just bitch, you don't like it, but nothing's going to change, but you want to bitch about it. So that's another good one. These are some suggestions, but really think about this. And that's what, Moses stands for, the ability that you can be liberated from these things that stand between you and love. See? So maybe that's why this dream came, because I've been thinking about Lent. I have my own practice. I'm targeting something else, but really look into that if you haven't, because there's millions of people at this time trying to get liberated from that, whatever, all over the world. And maybe some of them are trying to give up candy, but maybe some of them are doing this kind of thing too. And you have interesting story from Thomas Keating, who's the Trappist monk who started the centering prayer movement, brought literally a method for meditation to Christians. When he before he entered the monastery, when he was a high school guy, he tried to be the best football player there ever was, played people off the field. And then when he went out with his buddies in Massachusetts, he tried to drink everybody under the table, And then when he went to Yale, he got into the mystics. And so he went into the Trappist order. Everybody in his family was horrified going into this monastic order. So he put on the white, black and white thing. And now he was trying to be the better monk than anybody else. So he tried to show up every morning earlier. I mean, they get together at 3:15 for their first chanting, and he would get there earlier. He wanted to be the first one there. And there was always on the other side of choir, there was another monk who was there before him. And so he get filled with anger. And so the next day he came 5 minutes earlier. The monk was there, more anger. And so he just could not beat that monk. And so when he went in to talk to the abbot, he confessed. He said, I'm filled with anger. I don't know who this monk is, but, he told the story. And so and it was Lent. And so he was going to fast better than everybody else too. And so the abbot said, all right. He said, you need a serious practice for Lent. And so, Thomas said, well, great. Give me the hardest one, And he said, all right, at the noon meal, which is their big meal, normally they serve whatever gruel that they get, and then somebody reads a book from a book. That's their big meal of the day. He says, at your noon meal, I'm going to have a milkshake and a Snickers bar put by your, along with the normal food. And I want you to drink the whole milkshake and eat the whole Snickers bar the whole time. And he said, well, this is Lent. He said, yeah, this is your Lenten practice. And Thomas said that it was mortifying, to be sitting there, and then somebody brings a milkshake and puts a Snickers bar there, and the monks are all looking sideways at this guy, at me, And he says, I don't know if I doubt if my abbot knew the Enneagram, but he knew me. He said, all I had done is change clothes. I hadn't changed myself. I was still trying to fast better than everybody else, And he said that sort of showed him his arrogance and his pride. He says it was a great Lent. He says still to this day, he said, talk about it. The rest of the monks probably had many wild theories about what was going on. But see, that's it. You deprive yourself of something that's really feeding that habit energy. In his case, arrogance, pride. Yeah. So I think that's what Moses was speaking to me about, and it takes trying, because it might not work at first. Like I said, it was really hard to give up worrying and bitching, and you have to just start over. And that's that walking up, I think, it doesn't appear to be working. And then at some point it does. So have faith that you can actually clear stuff out of the way but really between you and love. That's the point. And worrying stood between me and love, and then just bitching. I learned something from both of those. Now, Hamlet's another story. It was a Mel Gibson, actually. It was like Charlton Heston and Mel Gibson, and Mel Gibson played Hamlet that I saw. It was okay. But Hamlet's another story. Hamlet's sort of I didn't realize why they were together at first, but once I sort of got a lead from Moses, I realized that Hamlet was always vacillating, to be or not to be. You know, it's great, great literature, but he never actually, he just couldn't commit. He just was always thinking about it. That's why I said, first come words, then comes bondage. Uh, words, 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 Hamlet sighs at one point. I mean, we all know about these words. It's that stream of inner commentary that's always running, you see. And we all have that. Hamlet had it in spades, and you know, he just could never really take a step. And so that's something else. And what I have both these voices in me, and I think that's why I said they're archetypal energies. What Jung meant by archetypes is that these energies are in everybody. This energy that you can go forward and try something bold to get free, even when it doesn't appear to be working, or this other voice says, "Well, I don't know." You know, the voice of Hamlet is yes, but. Yes, I want to be free, but you know, everybody recognizes that voice, that yes, but part. And some of us have a bigger, you know, but both energies are there. I would say Moses is the energy of the soul, liberation. You're designed to be free and to be totally open to love, to receiving it, to giving it. That's the energy of liberation. And then the energy of vacillation. Yeah. On the other hand, yes, I want to do this, but it's sort of a going forward, pulling back. I have that energy in me. And I really think everybody has those two voices. There's a bunch of other voices too, but that's the voice of just the ego mind that's interested in, I don't know, just clogged up with words, as Hamlet says. So that's sort of what that, how that dream led me to think about, well, why this dream now? Well, so and I think it really has a lot to do with thinking about Lent and what we can do. So seriously think about that. Think about what your Red Sea that you have to cross. Red Sea of worry, Red Sea of whatever, you know. You may have to sit in today, and sitting in the sitting, sit in the silence of it, and just even ask that question. Just be there and just have that question, like, what do I need to walk past? What do I need to leave behind? And then take, the deal is you'll have millions of people all over the world trying to do the same thing at the same time. That's the community aspect of it. That's why we have these special times of the year. Yeah. Now the dolphin thing also resonated with me, because that was I was given a retreat on Emerald Island with I think maybe that was the first time I met Judy Gerard had put this whole thing together, who's on today. And it was a great retreat. And had a house, and it was right on the beach in North Carolina. And the last morning I went up there and saw these dolphins, and just swimming and frolicking. And so I sat with that. That wasn't so obvious. And so I just sat with it for a while, a couple of days. I just bring it up, look at the scene. And then I remembered, and it had something to do with Debbie keeping the fire lit last time by doing the Hafez. And then I remembered this Hafez poem. So I'm going to read you this Hafez poem. The dolphins brought me back to the Hafez poem. This is called Where Dolphins Dance. Again, the work starts as soon as you open your eyes in the morning. Again, the work starts as soon as you open your eyes in the morning. Hopefully, I got some good rest last night. Why go into the city or the fields without first kissing the friend who always stands at your door? It takes only a second. Habits are human nature. Why not create some that will mint gold? Your arms are violin bows, always moving. I've become very conscious upon whom we all play. Thus, my eyes are filled with warm, soft oceans of divine music, where jeweled dolphins dance, then leap into this world. Again, the work starts as soon as you open your eyes in the morning. Hopefully, you got some good rest last night. Why go into the city or the fields without first kissing the friend who always stands at your door? It takes only a second. Habits are human nature. Why not create some that will mint gold? There, he's right on it there. He's right on the theme of Lent. And that was like somewhere in my unconscious, and the dolphins brought me back to this. It's beautiful. Habits are human nature. They just come out of trying to survive. We have these habits of worrying, of bitching, of pulling back, I had a habit of resisting love. I could love people a lot easier than receive love. So the habit of not being able to receive love when it's offered. Habits are human nature. Why not create some that will mint gold? That's the call to Lent. And so sometimes you have to leave something behind to create something new. He said, why not create some that will mint gold? He's got another great poem. He says, I know that depression that still calls to you. That's how it starts. And he goes through a bunch of scenarios, and then he said, he talks about those habits that don't mint gold, those habits that come from survival in the family and early life, and that we still hold on to. And he says, those habits that give you, only a Fez could give you this image, he said, those habits that give you a moment of pleasure, but then leave you walking for weeks behind a farting camel. Those habits that give you a moment of pleasure. And the reason we do get addicted to something, because there is a little bit of relief that comes from it, or a moment of pleasure. Those habits that give you a moment of pleasure, but then leave you walking for weeks behind a farting camel. In other words, there's always the blowback of these habits. Yeah, that's how it is. So, but the thing to take away that I took away, habits are human nature. You can create some that will mint gold, or the other. Yeah. So those two, that's what came of following a dream. And again, you can do this in meditation. If there's an image that is haunting you, maybe it came out, when something comes to you out of a dream, it's coming straight from the unconscious and saying, look at me. Jung felt that every person in everybody's dream was a part of themselves. And so that's where I finally came down to the sense of, and it's true for me anyway, I have a Moses voice in me, and I have a Hamlet voice in me. The voice that gets all tangled up in words for themselves, words, Hamlet's side. Yeah. And then, so I think we do all have all these voices in us. And when we sit in meditation, that's sort of the first level when we sit in meditation, is to break through that incessant inner commentary that's always running. It would be sort of like the flotsam and jetsam that's on the upper surface of the ocean. See? Another thing that came to me as I was sitting with the dolphins are mammals like us. They breathe air, and they feel like they're really intelligent, like whales, and so the dolphins can go under deep into the ocean, but then they'll come up and break the surface and breathe a little air and go back down. And really that's almost like every meditation session I've been in. I can go down, but then all of a sudden I find myself up on the surface again. Maybe that's just what human beings have to do. It's a little hard to state. And then there's no problem. You just allow yourself to go back down again. So dolphins are kind of image, and the way they go is sort of like a very gentle kind of up and down rhythm. And so don't think that you need to get rid of thoughts. No, but the ocean, if you study any kind of oceanography, they talk about the upper ocean, the mid ocean, the deep ocean, and we are doing a kind of dive here. The Lynn and Phil Bowling, who live in Bardstown, they've gone all over the world to do dive trips at a great expense. To dive off Madagascar, off the Indian continent. They've gone all over the world, Caribbean, to dive. And I said, well, what's the deal? What do you get out of it? And Lynn said, well, as soon as we go off the boat and go down beneath the surface, it gets quiet. You don't hear the boat. You don't hear the airplanes. It gets quiet. And then she says, in the first bit of ocean, certain fish kind of come at you. And then the deeper you go, those fish don't live there anymore. And there's different fish that come to you. And you go down another 50 feet, those fish aren't there. Different fish come to you. So we're doing this kind of dive, you see, with meditation, contemplation. We're going down where it's quieter. You got to go on a bathysphere or a submarine to go to the very deepest part of the ocean. The pressure is too much for a scuba diver, but it gets darker and it gets quieter. And then the advantage of darkness and quiet is you can hear other voices. You can hear the whispers that are trying to lead you out of Egypt, out of the slavery, and liberate you into a fuller life. But it takes some quiet. So, and then, then you're surfacing up and commentary's running. Maybe it's good commentary or whatever, but usually it's the same old. Well, when you notice that, just allow yourself to go back down gently. Okay, I'm going to use a kind of opening guided thing to help us just go into some silence, which we always do in the middle part. So I think that's enough for the talk here.